She thought she could do whatever she wanted. She parked her shiny white SUV right inside my garage without asking. She said it was community property because she was on the HOA board. So, I decided to teach her what private property really means by locking the door and going on vacation. It was a quiet Saturday morning in Maple Ridge Estates, one of those suburban neighborhoods where everything looked perfect: freshly cut lawns, identical mailboxes, and neighbors who smiled only when they wanted something. For Tom Miller, a retired engineer, that peace was worth more than anything. He lived alone in a two-story house at the end of the cul-de-sac with one prized possession: his garage. To everyone else, it was just a place to park a car. But to Tom, it was his world. The smell of motor oil, the gentle hum of his old radio, and his half-restored Chevy truck that gleamed like a time capsule. Every tool had its place. Every shelf was perfectly labeled. And for years, no one had disturbed that order until Linda Harper moved in. Linda, or as everyone quietly called her, the HOA Karen, wasn't just on the homeowner's board. She was the board. Loud, controlling, and allergic to the word no. She'd send violation letters for everything. A mailbox 2 shades off regulation color, a flower bed too expressive. Even the sound of Tom's wrench at 7 a.m. Tom tolerated her because he had patience, the kind that comes from fixing old engines and surviving bureaucracy. But that patience had its limits. One morning, Tom noticed tire tracks across his driveway, fresh ones. He shrugged it off, assuming it was a delivery truck. But something told him it wasn't that simple. He didn't know it yet, but those tire tracks were just the first sign that his peace was about to get hijacked by the one person who believed the rules didn't apply to her. The next morning started like any other. Coffee brewing, birds chirping, the faint hum of sprinklers. But when Tom hit the garage door opener, the door refused to move. He frowned, tried again, nothing. Confused, he walked around to the side door and opened it manually. That's when his jaw dropped. Sitting there, right in the middle of his spotless garage, was Linda's white luxury SUV. The HOA emblem sticker gleamed on the windshield like a badge of arrogance. Tom stood there, stunned. He didn't even know how she got in. He always kept it locked. He marched over to Linda's house, heart pounding. She opened the door wearing a robe, coffee in hand, and an unbothered smirk. Tom: "Linda, why is your car in my garage?" Linda: "Oh, don't be dramatic. I needed a safe place to park for a few hours. My driveway's getting pressure washed." Tom: "You didn't even ask." Linda: "You weren't home. Besides, the garage was empty. It's part of community property anyway." Tom blinked. Community property? Linda waved her hand like she was explaining to a child. Everything outside your main structure falls under HOA oversight. That includes your garage access. Don't worry, I'll move it later. Later. The word rattled around in Tom's head all day. He called the HOA president, who just happened to be Linda's friend. The answer was just as dismissive. "Let's not escalate things, Tom. She's a board member. Just let it slide." That's when he realized no one was going to help him. Not the HOA. Not the police. Because technically, it was a civil matter. That night, Tom sat in his workshop chair, staring at the car through the small garage window. "You picked the wrong garage, Linda," he muttered. It wasn't anger fueling him anymore, it was principle. Tom wasn't the kind of man to yell or threaten. He believed in quiet solutions and consequences that taught lessons. The next morning, he drove into town and stopped at the hardware store. He bought a reinforced padlock, a digital deadbolt, and a smart camera system. Back home, he double-checked his property deed. The garage was fully private, not shared or HOA accessible. Then he got to work. By evening, the new locks were in place, the camera was armed, and Linda's SUV sat exactly where she'd left it. The next morning, Linda came storming down his driveway. "Linda." "Tom, my car won't start." "Open the garage." "Tom, sorry, can't. Heading out of town." Linda: "You can't just lock my car in there." Tom: "You locked yourself in there, Linda. Actions have consequences." He grabbed his packed bag, tossed it in his truck, and said with a smile, Don't worry, I'll be back in about 10 days. We'll sort it out then. Her jaw dropped as he backed out of the driveway. Linda, you wouldn't dare. Tom, watch me. And then he was gone. Tom drove for hours until the city noise faded into the whisper of pine trees. He arrived at his brother's lakeside cabin, turned off his phone, and took a deep breath. For the first time in weeks, peace returned. Back home, though, chaos erupted. Linda called the HOA board in a panic. They called an emergency meeting. But without Tom's consent, they couldn't legally enter his property. She tried the police. They told her the same thing. It's a private residence, ma'am. You'll need a court order. By day 3, the neighborhood was buzzing. People whispered, laughed, and pointed whenever Linda passed by. Someone posted about it online, calling it #GarageGate. The post went viral locally. By day 5, Linda had rented a small car just to get to work. Her luxury SUV sat silently in Tom's garage, her humiliation growing with every passing day. By day 7, even the HOA president had stopped taking her calls. Meanwhile, Tom spent his days fishing, grilling, and reading, blissfully unaware of the chaos. He'd occasionally get texts from a friend back home. Dude, your garage is famous. Linda's losing it. This is gold. Tom chuckled every time. Good. Let her stew. 10 days later, Tom returned home to find Linda waiting on his driveway, arms crossed, face red as a fire truck. Linda, you're insane. You trapped my car like a criminal. Tom, you parked in my garage without asking. That's trespassing. Linda, I'm on the HOA board. Tom, then you should have known better. She tried to intimidate him. You'll pay for this. I'm reporting you to the HOA. Tom smirked. Already did. They saw the security footage. He handed her a printed letter, an official legal notice drafted by his lawyer. It stated that Linda Harper had committed unauthorized entry and use of private property, and that Tom could legally charge her for impound fees, security installation, and distress caused. Her hands trembled as she read it. You wouldn't. Tom, 10 days of garage storage at private rates. Comes to about $1,200. Cash or check? She was speechless. Neighbors gathered, watching. Finally, she reached into her purse and handed him a check, her pride crumbling with every pen stroke. Tom unlocked the garage, the metal door creaking as sunlight poured in. Linda's once shiny SUV was coated in dust and spiderwebs. The crowd laughed quietly as she drove it out, avoiding eye contact. Tom dusted his hands. Next time, Linda, knock before you park. She didn't answer. She just drove off, humiliated. Weeks passed, and life in Maple Ridge Estates returned to its peaceful rhythm. The HOA quietly updated its bylaws. Unauthorized use of private property will result in immediate penalties and board review. Linda resigned from her position, citing stress. Nobody missed her. Tom repainted his garage door a bright new color. HOA approved, of course, and hung a small metal sign above it that read, "Private property. Ask first." On Sunday mornings, he'd sit in a lawn chair with his coffee, watching the sun glint off the garage door, smiling at the memory. When his neighbor Greg walked by, he chuckled. So, Tom, 10 days without HOA drama. Worth it? Best vacation I ever took, Tom replied. As the camera pans out, the neighborhood is peaceful again. Kids ride bikes, sprinklers hum, birds sing, and in the distance, Tom's laughter echoes. Calm, satisfied, and just a little smug, because sometimes the quietest people deliver the loudest lessons.